everybody. Happy Tuesday. Today is May 6th, 2025. So, today we are talking about tariffs and how this will affect the community when it comes to collecting and everything within, this whole craziness that's going on right now. As always, if this is the first time you're checking me out, hit that subscribe, drop your comments, and we'll get into it. So, look, let's be real. As a collector, and I'm sure many of you out there, collect whatever it is that you collect. Everything is about to change in this industry right now. And, with this whole thing with tariffs that's coming into play, it's just gonna ruin everything, honestly. Things are right now getting worse, and everybody's picking and choosing, and that's understandable. I've been a long time collector, and I like to collect different things, whether it's video games, consoles, a lot of toys, if you want to say, action figures and things like that. It's a hobby that I enjoy. It's things that I like, and I know there's a market for it, and there's fans that enjoy that. And throughout the years, we know that things have changed, and I get it. Prices sometimes go up and things, because of the materials and the cost and the economy, inflation, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But with this whole thing, like I said, I don't talk about politics, and I'm never going to get into that, with this channel about it. But we do have to acknowledge and recognize and see, the trouble that's out there, especially for us collectors, because if we enjoy these things, especially when it comes to physical, product on whatever it is that you collect, to each their own. Everything's about to change, and it's getting affected because you have to pay more for what you enjoy and what you like. So, look, as a toy collector, and with video games, I'm mainly going to talk about that. So, if you collect what you collect and you want to share it, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'll read it and stuff like that. But look, when it comes to the materials, the cost, all that stuff is understandable. Plastic is expensive. Materials to make these things are expensive. You need the labor, the everything. And it's not only the plastic. You also need the metal for screws and bolts and things like that. So apart from the plastic, you also have rubber. Because you have to put joints and you have to put like certain parts that need these things to reinforce it and hold it on and stuff like that. So you have to keep in mind all these things cost money. And in order to get this awesome figure or whatever it is that you like, or a video game, there has to be a price that these companies and everything have to pay. But when you look at it the way it is right now with these tariffs, I'm gonna be real with you, everybody's taking advantage of this, and they're just doing and using this excuse so they can raise the prices, and that they can go ahead and milk their customers. And once, like everybody's saying, once these prices go up, they're not going to go back down. This is just another excuse, and for everybody everywhere, just like we went through when it was COVID in 2020. And everybody was, they were milking everybody, and that's the same thing that's repeating again. Here we are again. And look, with these tariffs, you have all these companies like Mattel, you have companies Hasbro, you have it's just a matter of time before all these corporations start doing the same thing, and they're going to be charging us even more, just so we can try to buy these things. And it's gotten down to the point where it's like, do I really want this, and is it really necessary to have it? And as collectors, I'm gonna be honest with you, like sometimes we just overbuy and get things that we really don't need. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, as a Transformers collector, as a Batman collector, do I really need 20 versions of Optimus Prime? Do I really need 30 versions of Batman? Realistically, no. This is why, as a collector, I'm just speaking for myself, I only like to collect certain lines, not everything. I'm only going to collect what really catches my attention. Even if I find it at like Ross or whatever, I'm still going to get what catches my attention. The reason why is because I'm not going to, fall down that rabbit hole. And a lot of people could relate to that too. We're not going to collect everything these companies put out. McFarlane Toys puts out some good stuff, but does it mean that I'm going to go ahead and buy everything in the line that he's putting? No, because it's just insane. It's too much. I stick to certain things. Most of them are like, live action and stuff like that, from what I like and what I enjoy. The same thing when it comes to Mattel. Like, I love Jurassic Park, I love Jurassic World, and I'm gonna buy what really catches my attention. I'm not going to buy everything just because I know, one, it's going to add up too much, and two, most of the time I don't even really have an attachment to certain characters. So I'm like, you know what? I really don't need that. Now, with that being said, you might be asking yourself, how does this fall into play with the tariffs and the whole situation and stuff like that, especially when it comes to collecting? Look, what you were paying, let's just say a month ago before these tariffs came in. What up, Sean? Appreciate you for watching, and everybody that's watching and all that stuff. Look, what you used to pay a month ago, now that these tariffs are kicking in and they're slowly starting to change things, let's say, for example, something costed you, I don't know, 14.99, and then now with these tariffs coming in, they're trying to put another tax upon it. So now it's no longer 14.99. You have to pay an extra, like what, $8, an extra $10. Now you're paying almost like what, 20, almost $30 for something that you enjoy. Now you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Can you afford it? If you can, good for you. It's just, it comes to a point where, like, and when you start adding everything up, it really adds up. So a lot of people are tired of that, and with the prices of the economy, just everything on its own is bad. You have eggs that cost a lot, milk that's costing a lot. So people are picking and choosing. Am I going to buy something that's just to have it sitting there that I can't really eat and enjoy? Or am I going to buy food and put food on the table for the family? So that's understandable. Sometimes you have to do what you got to do. And a lot of people are selling their collections. That's also understandable. You know, Everybody has their own situation, what they're going through, and you got to do what you got to do. But when it comes to the collecting community, whether it's video games, toys, whatever it is that you collect, shoes, some people collect watches and all that good stuff, to each their own. Again, these tariffs are rolling in, and apparently, shipments are starting to come in and they're fully loaded. But at the same time, when you look at this, it's just another way of these corporations and these companies of scalping their products to us. And I'm gonna be honest with you, with all these tariffs and everything that's coming into play, this is going to affect everything that's coming overseas. Like, for example, things that are here already in the States, in our country, you don't have to worry about it. Now, you're going to have companies, for example, like Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, that they're already starting to raise the prices. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm gonna be honest with you. The other day, I bought this what is it, Storms collectible, one of those Mortal Kombat figures. Those things are expensive on their own. They usually run over $100, and they had it on clearance. I bought it on sale, and it was pretty cheap. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like literally a week passed by, and then I go back. Let me go see, if it's still there, whatever. The price is literally back at regular price, and they're calling it quote unquote clearance. So I'm like, what? Like, and then again, these companies are coming out. McFarlane Toys was one of them, the first one that I saw that they announced it. Now, recently Mattel is also doing the same thing, and it's just a matter of time before all these companies also are going to start doing the same. That they're going to start raising the prices because of the quote unquote tariffs. Like they're just trying to use that excuse to raise the prices so we, the customer, in the end, get charged more because they want us to cover their fees, to cover their percentages, their numbers, so that they can make back with the loss and whatever they're getting taxed on. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. If you are a collector, you need to rethink how you're going to go about. I'm not trying to tell you what to do or how to do it, but I'm going to tell you from my personal point of view, my experience. There's a time that everything comes to where you have to draw a line and say, all right, what's more important? Is this collectible more important than putting food on the table? It just comes to that situation. Again, if you have honestly the spare money and all that stuff for, to do and get whatever you can, go for it. That's more power to you. But when it comes to picking and choosing, these tariffs are affecting everything. It's just not going to be within with merchandise and stuff. Now they're talking about that they want to put tariffs on movies. So with the movie industry, they're also going to get taxed, and that's going to hurt a lot of productions because you have to think about it. A lot of movies like to go out and film at other locations out of the states and whatnot and stuff like that. But if you have these companies that they're being taxed with extra prices because of the tariffs and things like that, people are just not going to be interested anymore. They're going to lose interest, and slowly it's like they want everybody's hobbies to slowly fade away. And that sucks because we all enjoy something. We all enjoy video games, movies, we all enjoy figures, whatever it is that you enjoy in the hobby, that's also going to get affected, on top of the big high prices that we have right now. It's just getting more difficult for everybody to be able to say, hey, I'm a collector, but at the same time, it's something that I'm enjoying. If you have the pockets and you're able to afford it, cool, go for it. But there's a lot of people that are not like that, and they're struggling, they're going through some real tough times, and that's understandable. But when you have these tariffs coming into place and taxing us so we can pay more and get less, in other words, it's just it's too much. It adds up. So you're gonna have people that are just gonna be like, you know what, I just can't no more. And you're seeing it. I'm involved with a lot of communities, and like, and they talk about it. You hear this on a daily basis. They constantly are always saying, hey, look, like they're quitting, they're giving up just because they can't get what they want anymore because of these prices. Is ridiculous. And it's wild. It really is. And again, that's also going to affect the movie industry. And we're seeing it with the gaming industry already. They're starting to raise up their prices just because they feel, well, everybody's doing the tariff train. Let's jump on while we can and let's start milking it. And it's getting to a point where this has gone out of control. But again, as the fans and as the consumers, we have the power. We have the power to say, you know what, I'm going to support this or I'm going to support that. And it's just pretty much up to each and every one, to do that part. Because honestly, this has gotten a little too much. When you have these companies coming out saying, hey, we're going to raise the prices on top of already expensive, products, it just makes you rethink, do I really need this? Like, what's really going on when it comes to that? And we already see it. We see it everywhere. Everybody's being affected, and it sucks. It really does. But sometimes being a collector is not always peaches and cream, in the sense where it's like, all right, like this is literally what the price you have to pay. One thing I do encourage to everybody is, if you're trying to get into collecting and whatever it is that you like, just shop around, look around before you make your purchase, and just look around. You might find a deal. eBay always has some good deals on a lot of stuff, and sometimes they're new and sometimes they're pre-owned. So it's pretty much what you want as the consumer to buy and stuff like that. Whatever it is that you want. Some people collect stuff in box, others they collect it loose. Like I like both, so it doesn't bother me. If it's something that I really want and it's a decent price, then I'm gonna get it. But these tariffs are about to completely sink everything that it comes to within the collecting community, if you want to say. Because look, everybody's right now feeling this crunch. Everybody, everywhere, we're all on the same situation. It doesn't matter where you are. Everybody, some are feeling it worse than others. But again, you have to ask yourself and reconsider, hey, do I really want this? Do I really need it? It has to come to that point where it's like picking and choosing what you like within the collecting on whatever it is that you like to collect. Because reality, it's only getting much more harder for everything. And these prices are about to go even more expensive. When you have consoles like Nintendo jacking up the price, you have Sony jacking up the price. It's insane. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm kicking back on the Switch too. And like, I can go and get it. That's not a problem. I have a plug and I have the money for it. But it's not about that. It's like, yo, like, this is crazy. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm still good with my Switch. And I barely use it. I only play it from time to time. And I'm like, do I really need a Switch too? No. It's just, again, the power of the media that they want you need it. You have to have it and stuff like that. Most of the stuff we don't really need. I'm be honest with you. I have the PS5, but the PS5 is completely a waste of a console. Why do I say that? Because the PS4 Pro was literally what the PS5 is today. And I'm like, yo, I thought they were gonna say, I thought they said that there was not gonna be no loading and things like that. And it still loads. It just loads faster. And when you have, these companies again lying to you and saying, oh, this is what you need, this is a must have, it's not like that. It's like, honestly, and this is why a lot of people are going retro now. And the whole retro market is once again starting to pick up. And people are going after all these retro consoles and retro games just because there's no loading, there's no DLC, there's no, all that extra nonsense, that's making everything much more difficult. And then what we saw today, I don't know if y'all saw it, but the trailer for GTA 6 for next year got posted, and it looks beautiful, And you might be like, what does that got to do with tariffs? Simple. Rumor has it that GTA 6 moving forward, especially now with what Nintendo Switch is doing, jacking up the prices, that's what PlayStation and all these gaming companies are going to start doing, because they're going to be like, well, if people are paying for the new Switch 2 like $80 for a game physical, then we should sell it for like 90 or 100. And rumor has it that it's going to be $99 digital for GTA 6. And then the other one that's like, it comes with the steel book, and not the collectors, just the steel book and the game or something like that physical. And that one's apparently gonna be like 149 or something like that. And then the collector's edition is gonna be like almost 200. So it's like, damn, is it really worth it? Like, it's gotten to the point where, especially with this whole thing with the tariffs, that's just completely hurting everything that has to do within, this whole industry. It's just not one thing; it's completely ruining everything. All right, you can get things to Canada. Yeah, yeah, I know. I've been seeing a whole bunch of things that are dropping. It looks like Canada are the first ones getting everything right now. It's wild. I've been seeing a lot of people posting up like new Transformers, Jurassic World, some McFarlane stuff, and I'm like, damn, Canada's ahead of the states. But the thing is, with when you buy from Canada, you still have to pay again that shipping fee and those taxes. So it's gonna work out for them. For us, we always lose as the customer. It sucks, in the sense like, okay, we're gonna have to pay a little bit extra more on top of what's already being taxed upon us, and it's like that's pretty bad, when you're seeing that. The last two gens of consoles have sucked. Barely any games. PS3 and 360 was the last good generation. Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. Look, I've been stacking up and buying some PS3 games left and right because GameStop has deals and things like that. With the buy two get one free and stuff like that. That was pretty wild. That was like probably like 2 weeks ago, and I got some good titles. And I was like, damn, I used to have this. I sold it years ago, and I'm like, I go back and play it, and I'm like, this is what I missed. That they were fun. You played PS5, they barely have any titles out. And I'm like, damn, what's the point of having this console? There's already rumors about PS6 coming out soon, that they're working on and what they want to do to improve it. And I'm like, y'all barely have any games out for the PS5. So it's like, they need to literally get with the program and just bring everything up to date, honestly, because it's really bad out here for all of us. People forget Sega games in the 90s could reach 90 million. Most of you are too young. Yeah, that's true. I remember when I was growing up, when Sega was first announced, and then Nintendo, and then the console wars, the real console wars. That you had Sega going up against Nintendo. It it was awesome seeing that. And you know I I had the Sega. I always wanted the Super Nintendo, but during that time growing up as a kid, I mean, it was very expensive, and it wasn't until probably like maybe as an adult when I finally got my Super Nintendo and stuff like that. So it was fun times. It's just different than what it is right now, and everything is just a cash grab right now. That comes to video games, collecting, the movie industry. And you guys hear me talk about that. The movie industry right now is nothing but a cash grab. And even with that cash grab, it's not working for them, because they're not putting quality out there, and this is why, these studios are sinking and these movies are flopping, things are tanking left and right. And it's because of the greed, the greed of these corporations and the companies. Yeah, games were priced based on popularity back then. Yeah, that's true, and now it's no longer about that. Everything is now just, let's overcharge, let's tax, and then you have the scalpers. The scalpers don't even make things better, because of course you have them that they go buy things for cheap and then they go and resell it. And then you have companies like Hasbro, and then you have companies like Mattel, and then they're like, what? If people are paying this on the aftermarket, then why don't we do the same? And that's what they're doing. They've already caught on. This is why the whole collecting industry is also going down, and it sucks because you have the wrong type of fans involved, and most of the time, they're not even real fans. They're just scalpers. They're resellers, pretending to be collectors. They're just in it. And we see it with the Pokemon cards. You see that with the Pokemon cards. It's very big. And a lot of people, they will do whatever they want to get those cards, and you see it on the news. You don't believe me? Go on YouTube and you'll see like news of people breaking into like shops and stealing merchandise just to take out, Legos and to take out Pokemon cards. And it's crazy, it's like, who would have thought that that's what that hobby would have become? People are actually on the internet showing off, like if this is straight up a cartel, like if it's like the new drug game. And I'm like, damn, yo, this is Pokemon cards, this video games. Like, why they got to treat it like that? They give us a bad image, and it's gotten to the point where it's just like, damn, like the image is like it's smeared, and it's just disgusting. It's gotten down really, really low to that complete level where it's like, damn, like like what the hell's going on with that? All you have to do is go look at the old Lord of the Ring toys. You got maximum bang for your buck. Yeah, a lot of things from back in the days. And I know some people might be like, oh, you sound like an old timer talking and stuff like that. It's not about that. You got to compare times. And I get it. A lot of people are young, they don't understand that. But back then, yeah, the quality wasn't as good as today. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the quality from today. The details, everything. It just looks a lot better. And but back then it was just simple. You didn't have to wait for downloading, or you had to wait for updates, or it's installing and all these craziness. Even with the PS3, it wasn't as bad as it is now with the PS5. It's crazy. And you buy a game, you have to install it. It's gonna take a few hours to install. Once you install it, then you have to wait because now it has to do an update. So it's like, yo, and then if the system needs an update, you're probably gonna be waiting there probably till the next day. So it's like, that's what I don't understand about these games. That's why when GTA 6 comes out, that's going to be nuts. I can only imagine how big the file is going to be. It's probably gonna be like, I'm just guessing, probably like over 150 gigabytes, just because that's how big that game's gonna be. It's probably gonna be even more, probably half of your console. But yeah, it's gonna be kind of crazy with that and stuff like that. What's up? What's up? Yeah, today we're just talking about something different. Mainly just with this whole thing with the tariffs and stuff, that how it's affecting collecting, and it kind of sucks, honestly. I know I saw somebody just post right here. Okay, let me just look at this real quick. They delayed the Batman again to 2028. Why am I not surprised? Honestly, again, that's what I'm telling y'all. Like in the end, that movie ain't even gonna happen. It's not gonna see daylight. So whatever they want to say, that movie's gonna get completely canned in the end. It's just not gonna be seeing daylight. And even if they do start filming, they're just gonna do it like Batgirl, give it the Batgirl treatment and stuff like that. And you know, like it's wild. It's wild. This whole industry has been affected by everything, one way, shape, or form. And another thing too, this is why is look, I'm gonna be real with you. When movies tank and they flop, it's like a domino effect. It hurts everything else. Because if the movie did bad, for example, let's use the example of Eternals from Marvel. That movie did so bad that all the merchandise didn't sell, and they ended up going to like third party outlets. For example, Ross, they didn't sell there, and then they ended up going to to Ollie's, and they're still sitting there overstocked. They're not selling. And it's a shame because this is what happens when studios put out trash films, and when Ross can't sell them, then they end up at Ollie's, and then when Ollie's can't sell them, it's like, what do you do now? People are not gonna buy them. Not even when they're on sale for like 3.99, people are buying them. And it was crazy because during the holiday season, people were still skipping them. They were like, I'm not buying that, not even at 3.99, because people don't care about those characters from that movie. And then that shows you and it tells you, look, sometimes Hollywood shouldn't be making certain type of movies. And like we're seeing right now with Thunderbolts, that's now been renamed to the New Avengers, which is ridiculous, you see? And and with that, it's still tanked. People are saying that they're not watching it. And then you have some people coming out saying, "Oh yeah, it's a good movie and this and that." It probably is. I'm not interested, and I'm part of the general audience. I'm not even a fan of it because I don't care about none of those characters. But I'm like, it doesn't even appeal to me. And I'm like, if you don't get my attention and I represent, a part of the general audience, imagine what the rest of the general audience feels. That's why it's not making money at the box office. That tells you a lot. And that affects everything. It affects the toy sales. It affects, everything that has to do with merchandise from that one specific movie. the same thing. And then on top of that, now slap the tariff price on it, and guess what? You think people are really gonna pay for it? They're not paying for it. People are waiting this out, and that's the best thing that they can do. If you want most of the stuff, I'm gonna be honest with you, just wait probably for a big clearance. That's it, for a big clearance sale, and then get it there, because at these prices right now, people are not supporting it. They're just not. And the movie industry is feeling it. That's why you're seeing a lot of movies that are now making the money back. And then you have small movies, underground movies, that they're outperforming these big Hollywood movies. But that tells you. But then, of course, Hollywood doesn't want, for these unknown, uh, movies to be the center of attention, because that's bad for them. It's bad for business, because then people are going to go watch that and they're not supporting that. And again, it falls into what I was talking about yesterday. The future is going to be independent, and not only is going to be with the movie industry, that's coming also with video games, like we're seeing. That's why a lot of people are creating their own things and putting them on Steam, and then they're doing the same thing with movies. Independent creators are just putting their own content, and they're building their own brand, and it's working for them. Some it does, some it doesn't, but for the most part, and that's what you have with the mainstream. They don't want that. They don't want people to be, hey, we're gonna put out our own toy line, or hey, we're gonna go out and put out our own film, or we're gonna do this independent. They don't want that, because Hollywood feels that they can control and own everything. But the problem and the joke is on them, because again, like I said, with the Eternals, and now that what is it, Thunderbolts, also known as the New Avengers, none of that is selling. Nobody cares about it. Not enough people. Okay, they made some money, but it's not enough. And the same thing awaits with Superman from James Gunn. Not enough people are interested. And most of that merchandise with from McFarlane Toys, I guarantee you, you're gonna be seeing all of those, if not most of them, at Ross this holiday season. You're gonna be seeing them. Watch, because they're not gonna sell when the movie comes out. When does the movie come out? July. So you got July, and then give it like what, the movie tends to run like a month or two in the theaters. So it's June, July. I mean July, August, September. Probably by the middle of September, you're gonna start seeing a bunch of this stuff going on clearance. And then when it goes on clearance, even like that, it still won't sell, because once they hit Ross, what they start selling for, like maybe $4.99, but or I think like $5.99 or something like that. When Black Adam came out, that's what happened with most of the toys from McFarlane. They ended up at Ross. I got a few of them, not a lot, but the ones that I did, and they were like what, $4.99. Then they went up to $5.99, and that's just telling you what's to come. But now with all these tariffs and everything that's completely hurting and doing what it's doing to this industry, I'm telling you, the movie industry, they have their days coming. What's the budget of Thunderbolts? That's a good question. You know what? Now that we're on, let me actually look at that, because I haven't even looked into it, because I'm not interested. I'll tell you right now. We're gonna see. Let's see, Thunderbolts budget. All right, 180 million. Wow, and they've only made 76 million on the weekend. That's how bad it is. They're losing a lot of money. They're losing over $100 million at the box office right now. That's bad. That's really, really bad. And we have to see what's going to happen, honestly. And again, that also affects everything. And when it completely, it's just hurting everything. When you have this movie industry tanking and doing bad films, people just don't want to buy the merchandise, because they're going to associate it and say that movie was garbage. So why do I even want to have whatever merchandise it is from that movie? You know. All right, we got Michael saying, as a McFarlane Toys collector, I completely agree. Yep, you see, a lot of people agree, and we're feeling it. We're seeing that right now. This whole tariff thing is going to hurt the community, is going to hurt everything that we enjoy. It really is going to hurt everything, because the prices, look, like I just mentioned it not long ago, Mattel, Hasbro, Entertainment Earth, you have all these online stores that they're and companies, that they're like, hey, look, because of the tariffs and things like that, we're gonna start increasing the price. And it's like, okay, like I'm really reconsidering, my pre-orders that I have. some of them I've already canceled because I'm like, nah, this is gonna be too much. By the time I buy it, it's like, what the hell, like I could have gotten two of whatever, that same set or whatever. And that's just me speaking for my own and things like that. But if you have the extra money and you can do it, go for it. Like, who are we to say not to and stuff like that? But even at Ross, I won't buy the new Superman toys. F. James Gunn. Yeah, and I agree with you. I'll see them at Ross, and I still won't buy them, honestly, because I'm not interested in it. It's a movie that I'm not interested. It's merchandise that I'm not interested, and it's just gonna be sitting there for a while. And what? It's probably gonna go straight to Ollie's right after. It won't last long at Ross because these stores have to move inventory, so they're gonna probably sell it much more cheaper to Ollie's, and then they're probably gonna end up at Ollie's and sit there just like we've been seeing with a lot of Star Wars merchandise, Black Panther merchandise, and the Eternals merchandise. That it's all just sitting there, and it's pretty sad, because look, don't get me wrong, some of these figures look nice, they just look good, these the Eternal figures. I keep on saying the Eternal figures because that movie was trash, and that's how trash the merchandise was. But we're talking about Marvel Legends. I collect Marvel Legends. Do I have any of those characters in my collection? Hell no. Do I want them? No. Not even for free. I think I want them just because I don't care about those characters. But it sucks because it's like, damn, those are Marvel Legends. I understand if it was just like some other like brand or whatever. We're talking about Marvel Legends. When they came out, they were like what, like 24.99 or something like that, and they've gone down to like, I think that when I saw them the last holiday season, they were probably around like 4.99, 5.99, something like that at Ollie's, and even like that, they still weren't selling. And we have merchandise from Black Panther 2 that is just sitting there overstocked, and they're not selling. So that tells you a lot. That tells you a lot of what how this industry has become. Exactly. One of the last McFarlane's I buy will be Batman versus Superman Alfred. Look, I've been trying to get that one and I can't find it nowhere. Like every time I try to go and see is it available for pre-order, it's either it just went off because they already sold out, or probably they only have one. The last time that I saw was on Walmart, and when I was trying to buy it, it was like, "Oh, it's already sold out." I'm like, "How the hell is it sold out when I literally just added it to my cart?" It's just, I think sometimes they do that, and I get it. The fan demand, a lot of people are after it, so that's cool, And I know the release date is coming up and stuff like that, so I'll probably wait it out. I know it's gonna be more after it releases because, of course, it's Alfred. Even though it's Batman versus Superman, I mean, like it's gonna be a figure available everywhere and stuff like that. So I'm not in a rush to get him. I'll get him eventually, but it's but at least we're getting him, so that's cool. Hopefully, we do get that Batmobile that they have a listing on from McFarlane for Justice League, but we haven't heard anything. So, at this point, McFarlane doesn't even care himself. He's like, let's just tax it and just put everything that we can right now. It kind of sucks, but that's what happens. All right, man, bro. James Gunn fanboys are toxic. They still come to my YouTube channel and leave me H comments because how I feel for James Gunn, super trash. Yeah, man. Look, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Just ignore the James Gunn fans. Honestly, just do what I do. Just delete, and if you have to block them, just do it. They're gonna come back with a different account, but just do the same thing. Honestly, they just want attention. They know that their whole James Gunn Superman is completely, it's done before it even starts. Nobody's interested. Nobody cares, and it's too late to save them. Like I said, all that merchandise, all that stuff that has to do with it, it's all gonna end up on massive clearance as soon as that movie comes out. And that movie's gonna come straight to streaming within 2 weeks. You're gonna see it's not going to make the numbers in anything with merchandise, ticket sales, nothing that they're expecting. So just, we're better than them. They know it. And they just keep on exposing themselves. So, we're just here to like help that. But they're just exposing themselves. That's how these James Gunn fans are. They love to criticize, but they don't like criticism towards themselves. But it is what it is. Just don't pay them no attention. You keep doing your thing. To everybody, you keep doing your thing, and don't pay them no attention. That's what they want. They just want attention. So they would try to make and say anything to get your attention. And some of y'all have seen that when I'm streaming, they try to act like clowns, and I just delete them and block them. And somehow they always find a way to come back. I don't know, but it's just don't pay them no attention, honestly. That's all they want. They just want attention. And when you give them the attention and they know that they have your attention, that's all they want. You can't pay them no type of attention, you know. And when this is that's why, like I said, like this is why I really wanted to talk about today, because tariffs are something that are going to change everything for everyone, and it sucks, because in the end, we know that it's all politics. It's just another way for them, if you know what I'm talking about, for them to keep the prices up high for us, the consumer, to be like, oh, I'm gonna get it regardless. And sometimes these things, when they go out, just wait it out a little bit. They'll go on sale and you'll find them eventually. Because I've come across things where I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna buy that. I forget about it. Time passes. I come across it and I'm like, well, damn, it was meant for me now. And it's like months after, not even a year or so. It's less than a year, and you'll find them on clearance. Most of the stuff always ends up at clearance just because it's not selling. People are not buying and spending like that, like they used to anymore. And this new generation, I don't know what generation we're in right now, whether it's Z, Generation X, ZX, I have no idea. All I know is that the new generation, they don't care about all this stuff. It's the true hardcore fans that really go out and support and buy the things that these companies put out. Like I said, I collect Jurassic World and Jurassic Park figures mainly from the Mattel line now. Like, I don't collect the Kenner ones, just because the new ones are, to me, they look a lot more better. They're just more improved and stuff like that. And does that mean that I'm going to go out and buy every single version of it? No, because these companies like to put two or three repaints, probably more, like 20 times of the same one. And it's like they love to milk that mold. And we already know, as collectors, we know that. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to get me. Before, I used to, not anymore. And especially now with the way that things are going, most of these things are not selling in stores. So, like I said, wait it out and you'll find a good clearance or a good sale. And then you get them during that time. I've bought so many good stuff like that. Like, literally, they just put up for pre order, like maybe like what, like a month ago or less, the pre orders for the new Jurassic World for the figures and stuff. And while it went up, they were already on sale. And what does that tell you? That the stores have to also sell product. That's why they had that. They had a promotion and it applied to the new stuff that was literally on pre-order. And I was like, wow, okay, it was a win. So I got it. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be mad at it. And it comes out soon. So it's like that's pretty dope, because we're already getting towards summer. Next month is when we're gonna start seeing a lot of things coming out, and a lot of people are gonna be putting out, the new stuff and things like that. And of course, we know that we're getting closer to San Diego Comic Con in the summer. That's in July. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of updates when it comes to like movies, games, a lot of collectibles and stuff like that. So with that on its own, that's a good thing, honestly. And it's gonna, be good because we're gonna get new merchandise and whatever it is that we enjoy. But the downfall is that these tariffs are going to literally, we're going to feel it. There's no other way to say it. We are all going to feel it. And once this whole thing does pass, they're saying, hey, look, we're quote unquote going to make something work from it. It's not, because these companies are going to take advantage of it. And they're going to be like, well, because of the tariffs, if something that costed $12.99, now it's going to cost you probably $21.99, because they're going to try to put that little fee in there. And it's like what they did during the pandemic. I don't know if some of y'all went out. I know, like, not out, but like if you would buy food during the pandemic, at least in my area where I'm at, you would order and pick up in the store, and they had this thing called a COVID fee. Yeah, they actually had that. So you had the regular price, you had the tax, then you had the county tax, and then you had this little tax that was called COVID fee. And then they changed it to a convenient fee. And I was like, oh, okay, this is just another way of them getting us. And it's like, to some people, it might be like, oh, but it's only like $1 or less extra. Okay, add that up times what, 100,000 people that live within your area. Add that up. They just made 100,000 extra dollars. See what I'm saying? That's how these corporations are. But like I said, just wait it out. If you're a collector and you buy certain things, look around, shop around. You're gonna get some good deals, and things that are even pre-owned. Like, you would be amazed at some of the stuff that you can find. All you have to do is just a little research, and you'll be able to avoid those tariffs, because most of the stuff that's already here, these companies just want to get rid of it. They have to make way for new inventory. So they're going to be like, you know what? Let's just put it on clearance. Let's sell it so we can, get new merchandise that's coming. That whole new merchandise that's coming for the summer, that's where we're all going to feel it. And that's going to be a real heavy crunch for all of us because we're going to be like, damn, like, are we really going to be supporting it and buying it? To each their own. Like I said, I'm not telling you what you should buy, what you shouldn't buy, but just think about what you can and what you can't get because you're not gonna put yourself in the negative and say, "Hey, let me get this, but I'm gonna be in debt." You get what I'm saying? Like you don't want to be in that debt, especially with these prices that are coming. Oh yeah, we're all gonna feel them. You thought the prices of eggs were bad? Get ready because they're about to get worse. And not only the prices of eggs, the prices of everything. Because now you're gonna have stores that they're gonna be ripping us off, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, because of the tariffs," And it's like, come on, man. Like everybody's gonna be using that. Everyone's gonna be using that excuse. But it is what it is, and we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, things do change for a little bit for the good. But yeah, I don't see that because when it comes to like money and business and things that has to do with financial stuff, especially with the economy, yeah, most of the time once they raise these prices, those prices are not going back down, and we saw that during the pandemic, and we're starting to see that again. It's like this nonsense. It's already clear. It's all just a political move. Like I said, I don't talk about politics, but I am going to point out the facts that all of this, unfortunately, tariffs, it just falls under all of that. And it's like, it's just another way of them trying to tax us, the regular people, to be able to, well, you want to enjoy it, you're going to have to pay that price. And literally, that price is going to come high because once these new things, take effect and stuff, I'm telling y'all straight up, it's like the hobbies everywhere are slowly fading away. And at the rate that they're going, um, it's just I don't see these companies lasting long. You know, it's just a matter of time. Like companies like Mattel, Hasbro, we already see the mess that Hasbro is in right now, and they've been around for years. They're so bad that they had to sell. Well, not sell. They had to lease out some of their own IPs, and it's like they own Power Rangers, but they leased it out now to Playmates. So they're like, you know what, Playmates, you pay us, but you deal with that. We don't want to deal with that no more. And they're doing that with the movies now, with the Transformers movies. They don't want to fund their own projects, their own movies, their own IPs. That tells you a lot. They want other studios or other people that can afford it to buy the license from them because, of course, they're going to clean their hands. They're going to be like, you know what? This was ham. We made money and we didn't have to do nothing. That movie tanked. That's their problem. They're going to start doing like all these companies do. And one big company that does that a lot is Capcom. If you're not familiar with them, Capcom loves to do that. They have so many IPs, they're just sitting there. But they like to lease out some of them. And one of them is Mega Man. They won't make another Mega Man game. It's been years, but they love putting out Mega Man merchandise because, of course, they lease it out for the characters that they want. That company deals with it. They do everything, and they just pay a percentage to Capcom. And that's the same thing that's going to be happening, with the gaming industry. You have Sony studios that they can make their games, and they're not doing anything. The PS5, it's pointless, honestly. If you have a PS4, just stay with your PS4, honestly. If you have a PS4 Pro, that's like you having a PS5, honestly. There's no big difference. There's none. There's not real good titles. There's nothing exclusive for the PS5. And the same thing now with this whole Nintendo Switch 2. It's just Nintendo is just trying to beat them to the punch and say, hey, look, we're already going to the next phase where we're going to be charging the customers and they're going to have to pay for it. And now with the delay of certain games, and like what we saw today with GTA 5, I mean GTA 6 that is getting delayed to 2026, that's just another excuse for them to raise up the price and then in the end justify and say, well, because of the tariffs, now we're all forced, you know? Yeah, right. They're just doing that so they could try to rip us off some more. But it's crazy. But this is a situation that this industry is in, unfortunately, and that's also going to affect the movie industry. This is why I'm telling y'all the future of movies are going to be, unfortunately, digital. They're going to be streamed. And we're seeing it. Look at how big all these streaming services are. Not only that, look at how big it is when it comes to live streaming. You know, you have YouTubers and everybody that's streaming. What does that tell you? That's where the future is going to go. And people just don't want to go out and support like they used to anymore. And it's very rare for a movie to make so much money now just because there's no good quality. And then when there's good quality out there, it gets overlooked. And then that's what fans are looking for. They want original, good quality content, you know? And these studios are not delivering. Look at what The Last of Us has become. It's a joke. It's a joke. You know, every episode it gets worse and worse. And I'm like, how? How? Like, and they own these IPs. It's wild, you know? It's like, what has it become into? You know, not just that, but I'm just saying in general and stuff like that. So that's what that is. But yeah, so you know, that's it. Yeah, nobody's gonna be buying those toys. Honestly, those things are just gonna be sitting on clearance. They're gonna be sitting like the what it was the one from the what is it the one from Marvel that they Shang Chi whatever that thing is called, all those things are still sitting over there at Ollie's. They're not selling. You know, people don't want that crap. And I don't know what happens after when they don't sell. I think they do what they used to do back in the 90s. They just round up everything. And we saw it with the Funko Pops recently, probably like 3 years ago when they wouldn't sell. They just get them and they just throw them in the landfill and they just fully destroy them, you know. And again, they do a tax write off. And I think that's what they're going to do with this one. They know it. You know, the studio knows that nobody's gonna be buying this stuff, and they're just gonna have to accept it. Honestly, you know. But yeah, so that's all I wanted to talk about today. You know, just talk something different. Like I told you, I just want to talk about different things and stuff. But yeah, I heard about that that rumor that somebody just mentioned right now that the Batman 2 apparently is getting delayed to 2028. I am not surprised. Like I said, that's not going to see daylight, unfortunately. You know, yeah, The Last of Us was a huge disappointment. Yeah, I haven't been watching it after what they did to Joel. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say the spoiler. Once they took out Joel, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this show, you know, and that's why the show is tanking also, you know. What can you say, you know? WB. I mean, they own HBO Max, so you know, it's it's crazy, completely. You know, but yeah. So again, I want to thank y'all for watching, for tuning in. I'm about to get going. Yeah, have a good evening, a good morning, wherever you are around the world. I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.